Check out this AI IDE called Kiro. It focuses on spec-driven development. So instead of going from prompt directly to code, it goes from prompt to fleshing out all the details, adding global context, and then diving into the code. And we're going to see this and along with two other very important features. First, Agent Hooks, which lets you automatically do something when a file changes, such as update documentation. Then Agent Steering, which allows you to add global context that's automatically added to your prompts. And then the last feature we'll look at is the spec-driven development. So going from a prompt all the way to production. At the end, I'm going to share my thoughts on what I think of this as a tool. Should I use this or Lovable or Cursor and so forth? Let's dive into Agent Hooks by switching over to Kiro and navigating to the Kiro view on the left. Here we can add a new hook. I'm just going to give a quick demo of this CSS class updater that I created. Essentially on my site, I'm trying to use as few classes as possible. So I want to document them somewhere. So when I'm asking AI to do something, it can just easily pull from those classes. So if I were to update my global CSS file and add this hello world and click save, we're going to see that it automatically kicks off this hook. It sees, hey, there's a new class. Let's update our documentation about this new class. And we can click this follow button to see what it's doing. And I see that it's added hello world to my documentation with a nice diff. So that is Agent Hooks letting you define little file listeners and actions based on that. Now let's take a look at Agent Steering. These are files that let you define some information about your project. Like here's the structure. It's a monorepo. It defines kind of what are the tech stack at play and so forth. I also have a styles file here that goes over all of my strategy for styling my site. And if I were to start a new chat and just say, what classes am I using? It'll pass in the relevant documentation. So it's able to answer your questions and you don't have to provide it the same information all the time. So that is Agent Steering. Now, spec-driven development. This is like kind of the core of the product. Let's take a quick look at this. And I'm actually not going to start a new chat because this takes a long time. And here are the results. We have this spec folder up here. I did this before. I just said I'm trying to move these two links to only show up when you hover over the image. And that was basically the prompt. And then it turns it into requirements. So I didn't write any of this. You can always modify it. And then once you approve it, it will write the design doc right here. Again, didn't write any of this, just kind of fleshing out the details. And finally, it gives you a task list where I can click start task and it'll run through that task and implement everything that it's talked about so far. Now, this idea I think is really good, and I'll get more into that in the thoughts. But in actuality, this took over 30 minutes to do, and I didn't finish because it was just taking too long. The remaining tasks were about responsive behavior, writing unit tests, like super in-depth stuff for just moving these links. And here is what it came up with. Not great. I mean, there's some issues here, and it's just for 30 minutes, this was not worth the effort. I should also mention, I forgot to say this earlier, that this is in preview, a public preview right now. So this is for Kiro to understand this type of feedback and make changes based on it. So the product is still changing. But as far as the spec-driven development goes, I thought it took way too much time. And maybe I'm using it wrong, but for my project, for moving two links above the image, I should have just did that by hand or use Cursor. Now, how does this stack up against Cursor or Lovable? Would I use this over those two tools? No, not at this time. And I think it's a little bit confusing. If we go to their website, they say from prototype to production. And they also say things like go from vibe coding to viable code. So I'm not quite sure how this tool is supposed to be positioned. The copy makes it seem like it's more of a Lovable tool where it's just going to flesh out the details more and you're going to get better production code rather than just trying to go from a single prompt to an entire application. It's going to take more time up front, which sounds great, so it can have more accurate results down the line. But because we're working in an IDE, this is a fork of VS Code, it makes it seem like it's more of a Cursor type software. And if we're comparing it to Cursor, I just think Cursor is a lot better at this point. It'll get things done faster. And even like within the software, this does have autocomplete, but it was off by default. I don't know if they're just trying to save costs or if that's just not like a primary feature of the tool. I think the idea of doing spec-driven development, it seems like a layer up over just prompt engineering because that has shortcomings, and this seems to solve it, keeping your documentation up to date with hooks and having these steering docs to always be included in your prompts, fleshing out the specs. It all seems good. I just don't think that the rubber is quite hitting the road yet. But who knows? It's a public preview. That is my take on Kiro right now. Who knows what the future holds? Thanks for watching this video, and I'll see you in the next one.